Hey everyone, welcome back to the Habs Tonight channel. My name is Annik and I'm joined with your very own Dutch Gretzky. Dale, before we get started, you just got back home to Sweden. Coming back from Winnipeg, how was your home trip for a few weeks?
It was excellent. It was excellent. If anyone's been wondering where I've been, that's
Yeah.
kind of been the story of my last month. I got to go home and see my family. I posted a couple things on Instagram, not a lot, but that was awesome. I was away from them for 3 months. That's the longest I've been away from my family, since I've had kids. So it's been difficult. And then I got healthy, and now I'm back skating, and I should be playing in a couple weeks. So I'm excited to be back and excited to be back on here with you and discussing some crazy events that happened the last couple of weeks. I've been waiting to jump on and talk about a lot of things. So I'm happy we can get all those out of the way today.
No, I'm happy you got to spend time with the family. I saw a few videos Lauren posted and they were so thrilled to see you. So exciting for the kids and for Lauren as well to spend time with you. But now that you're back, happy you're finally going to be playing. It's a long time coming and finally back on the show here as well. So if we're just going to jump into it, I guess we should start with the biggest news that have been going around is Kyle Beach. If I'm not mistaken, this is somebody that you used to play against in the minor, right?
I played against him in junior.
Okay.
So he was, yeah, and this is, I mean, I'll jump right into it. This was so disturbing. I heard the rumors a year ago, when there was like, ruffling of it coming out and rumbling here and there, and you're like, okay, maybe something happened. Nobody came out. And then, I think it was Brent Sopel and someone else came out and started talking about, hey, this actually happened. And then when players come out and start talking, there's some there's some grounds there.
Yeah.
Like something must have happened. But nobody really, knew the real details. And when that came out, I was so disturbed. And first of all, just from a hockey standpoint, I always wondered, it's tough. You make a transition from junior to pro. It's tough for anybody. And on the hockey side, I always wondered. I played against him in junior, and this kid had everything. He was big. He could skate. He
First
could
round pick,
score.
right?
He had great hands. He was tough. They essentially drafted him. Like, here's a power winger and a guy that's absolute nails that can protect Kane and Toews. At the time they were
Yeah.
still 20 years old. Like, it was he was that guy. And from the hockey standpoint, like I'm saying, I was always wondering, man, like, what happened? He didn't even get a sniff. He never played one game. And on the other side of it, it just disturbs me so much that this was allowed to happen, on all levels. And I've talked about it at length. When I was in Chicago, I really respected Stan Bowman, and I thought he was a stand-up guy, honest guy. He was honest with me. One of the most honest GMs I played for, and I had a tremendous amount of respect for him. And then you hear this come out, and it's like, man, how do you go from, okay, I told my upper management, or I told my president, or whoever it was, and you just let it go?
Yeah.
And when you hear quotes from Quenneville saying, we had to focus on winning, like, are you kidding me? That was so disturbing to hear. And I wasn't there long enough to know, Quenneville on like a
Hmm.
level outside of a hockey coach. But to be honest, it didn't surprise me that he said that. Just from my very brief time, and then again, I'm saying it's very brief.
Yeah.
He struck me as the type of guy that his whole life was about winning. That was it. Like, he didn't care what was happening with any player. So I wasn't surprised to see that. And then you go down the line to the NHLPA, where
Yeah.
Don Fehr comes out and makes this half-ass apology about how he let him down. I'm sorry. You have,
Yeah.
like, there's no excuse for anybody in Chicago's organization, the GM, the coach, the players, anybody. There's no excuse. Okay,
Hmm.
but they had something to lose by coming out and saying something. The Players Association, you have nothing to lose. You come out and call them on it, and you stand behind them. You have nothing to lose. That's your job. And they did nothing. And he comes out and puts this apology out as if that's good enough. Like, I'm sorry. He needs to, I wasn't on the calls with the players or whatever. I don't know what's happening. Obviously, they're doing an investigation into it, but I'm sorry. You're fired. You're gone.
Yeah.
You're gone. You're the head of the play. And I'm not surprised this happened. And I'm going to say something that's, was confidential, but when we were getting ready to play in the bubble, and I talked about with the team and stuff and you guys, but
Yeah.
I think this needs to be said because it's interesting. You're like, well, maybe he made one mistake, and you're like, no, hold on a second.
Oh, it's multiple
When we were,
mistakes.
yeah, and a couple, was weeks, months, whatever. League shuts down 2020, and we start having these player calls, and there's 400 guys on the call from the league talking about, hey, how are we going to get back to playing in the summer? How are we going to finish the season? And COVID was very fresh and new, and nobody really knew what was going on or what was happening. And here's Don Fehr pressuring players to play in the bubble. Like, it was like, we need to play. We need to play. There's no excuse. And guys are like voicing their opinion, like, hey, we really don't want to do this. Numerous high-end guys in the league are like, we shouldn't play. Like, we don't need to do this. And Don Fehr was like, him and Matthew Schneider, supposed to be working for the PA, were the two biggest voices on those calls that were like, you guys need to play. You need to play. You need to play. And it's like, okay, you don't need to go in the bubble. You don't need to sit in the hotel. You're going to go wherever you are, and continue to collect your paycheck. And it was funny, actually. Shazi was the guy that called them out one time. Was like, "Are you guys still getting paid?" And sure enough, they're still getting paid when nobody else was. But of course, Shazi is the best guy. So I, going through that and seeing how they have no, they didn't care about the player. They're like, we need to keep the league going. We need to keep making money. They didn't care about the players. So that coming out and me being through, that experience, I'm not surprised that it ran through Don Fehr, and he wanted to keep it quiet. And him and Gary seem like way too good of buddies for me too. Like, you work for the players, you're supposed to be against him. And so it was just like, I was so disturbed. And I didn't know Kyle personally, but like I reached out on Instagram, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit. And I was just, I was so disturbed. Like, I just wanted to show him my support and say, look, man, like, I'm so proud of you for coming out. I couldn't imagine what that would be like to go through. And, you're just such a strong individual. And again, I've said it on Joe's piece. I said it on Pricey's. This is the stepping stones for not just hockey, but like male culture.
Everyone.
This is like developmental steps. This is what we need in the world.
Yeah.
It's a horrible, horrible, disgusting situation that happened to him. But this is groundbreaking. Like, this will help so many people. So many people, like, all the support these guys are getting. I'm in a terrible situation. There's a, if there is a little ray of light, I think it's the fact these guys are getting so much love and support. And I was disgusted on so many levels. So that's my rant on that. It was just crazy.
I don't know if you saw the legal document. It's 107 pages long, and I read through most of it. I took one evening to sit down and say, you know what, we're saying we're going to make changes. So, I'm going to educate myself on what's going on, and especially with Kyle Beach's case, since we have most of the details now. So I read through all the graphic details of every single thing that happened, and I cannot believe that this was swept under a rug like nothing ever happened. And you still see it as the organization, Chicago right now, that's saying, it's going to go in court. We're still not admitting to anything, but you're going to go right ahead and scratch the pardon the expression, but this piece of shit's name off the Stanley Cup. So if you're ready to do that, obviously it's an admission of guilt somewhere, right?
So I agree completely. And
I don't get it.
How about the fact that there's, they're like, oh yeah, we're sorry that Kyle went through that. But again, it was like a half-ass apology, and there's no like ownership or anything. Like, it's just, you think it's crazy that this came out, but the way it's been handled by the NHL and even Chicago is so poor. And you're going to go in court and still try to like win a lawsuit over this? Come on.
No,
I don't know what the answer is. Yeah. Like, to me, that's a pretty, you fly him in, and I'm not saying it's right or this is what would make it right. It's never going to be right. He's always going to have some issues that when you go through something like that, there's no doubt about it. But you bring him in and you look at the average of how much a guy has made in his career at that position, take your 11 overall, what is the average salary of a guy's NHL career? And you cut him a check for that. And you have counseling, you have all this. I know Gary came out, was like, we're helping him. You failed him big time. And it's, I just can't believe that the lawsuit is continuing to go on. And it's not like we're bending over backwards to do everything to make this right. That,
and if you're going to touch on just making it right, talk about the the other 16-year-old that was a victim of Aldrich, who it's basically been brought up right now, and the league practically said, we don't have enough to commit to anything right now, and we're not going to help the kid. Imagine being a victim and hearing those words. I'm putting myself in their shoes of saying, like, holy crap, I'm trying my best to get better, to speak the truth, and to not to move on, but to get I guess a little bit of closure. And this is the shit that they're pulling. So obviously, like you said, Fehr needs to go. Gary Bettman is a dinosaur that needs to go. There needs to be to improve. There needs to be people fired. There needs to be a clean house, in my opinion. What do you think about
I agree with
cleaning
you.
house?
I agree with you completely. If this was allowed to happen, everybody that's in a power position that had any fraction of like knowing about it, like, you need to go. There's no, I'm sorry, we're gonna give you a break. Like, I'm sorry, like, you're gone.
Like travel day off?
Like, there's that one, to me, I was kind of shocked by that.
And no apology in
and
his
again,
first release either.
yeah. Yeah, that one, I honestly can't believe anybody that was involved. Even I know they've kind of like cleared Burge and everything, but I'm just, it's crazy that anybody is allowed to escape from under this. That might have, even if you didn't, even if you, like, I don't know, it's like, how in the world how did Aldridge get another job? How, like, you can sweep it under the rug, but like, there had to be some kind of reference where they called you and said, okay, he was released here. What happened? There had to have been a conversation there.
Yeah.
And for you to like put more people in danger, like, I'm strictly just thinking this as like a father.
Yeah,
Like,
especially you as a father.
You send your kids, boy or girl, away to college or NHL teams, junior team, wherever. You're expecting these people that are in charge to have the best interest of your child and keep them safe, at least.
Yeah.
And this is allowed to happen, and people knew about it, and you continue, like, oh man, like, talk about ball dropped on so many levels by so many people. And I don't know how you could look yourself in the mirror and be okay with the fact that you're trying to win a hockey game as opposed to someone's safety. Like, that is just,
it's
so
mind-blowing.
wrong. It's mind-blowing. Like, I don't know if there's been a situation that I've ever been a part of in hockey that like really churned my stomach like this. This was really, really disturbing that people knew about it. And it was, and a crazy part too, like, I don't know if you read some of the articles where the players were talking about, before Beach even came out and it was considered John Doe, that people were like, hazing him in the dressing room and talking about it.
Yep. That part too. So I brought me back to the original statement of when this came out last year, everybody's in denial, which makes no sense again. And then it's coming out again and you're still in denial. But you were part of, not you specifically here, but the players were part of the hazing. They were aware of it. So it brings me to my question of, did you hear the comments from Jonathan Toews?
I did. And this is something that really strikes me. So I've known him my whole life.
Yeah.
We played against each other growing up. We talked about this a ton. And then when I went to Chicago, I was blown away by how good of, you hear about how good of a leader he is, but I'd never played on his team. And, he was as good of a leader as I've played with. A stand-up guy, goes to battle for his teammates. Sometimes you have confrontations between coaches and players, and he's a guy that would directly go to coaches for players and stand up for them. So I honestly, in my opinion, he's a guy that just, he does the right thing. He's a stand-up individual. And I feel like I believe him. I know a lot of people probably don't believe him. And you're like, if you were there, to me, like, there's no way I could see him hearing this and not saying anything about it. He's not that type of person. I honestly would vouch my life for this guy. Like, that there's no way he knew about it. The way he is, the type of person he is, and from what I saw my whole life, and after playing with him, he's too good of a person that is actually genuine and cares about people. There's just no way that he knew something about it. And I've heard a lot of guys that were on that team don't want to comment about it and talk about this, and they kind of dance around it. I mean, maybe they didn't know enough about it. When Kane talks about it and he says, well, I wish we knew more. I wish there was like, maybe they I don't know. It's from that standpoint, it's hard for me to believe, honestly, that he, Toews, at least, I can vouch for him. There's just no way that he would have allowed something like this to go on. He's just not that person.
Yeah, well, he's got the reputation of being such a great, not only hockey player, but person too. So that's why when I heard the comments, I
Right.
was surprised that it's like, oh, a guy like that, it's, whew, it's
I know.
surprising. So it was trending that last year he said, not aware of anything. And this year he goes, yeah, well, we kind of knew a little bit of what was going on, but it was during the playoffs. So the story was just so, I guess, tangled around that at some point you took a step back and you're like, okay, so what's the story? There's so many question marks right now. So a lot of people say strip the C off of him. Like the Chicago's just a shit show right now. Let's be honest, on and off the ice. So I can't imagine being there. And then he turns around, makes a comment of Stan Bowman and Quenneville being two great people. So that's I guess the turning point of that press conference, that guys were like, whoa, you kind of just basically defended. I get it. Coach Q's got that reputation of being the hockey guy. Like you said, it's a winning mentality. I used to have so much respect for Coach Q as well, of being that type of guy. But now that you hear this, that he was aware and didn't do anything, my respect is gone for both of them.
Right. I agree. Like, completely out the window for those guys, completely out the window for Stan Bowman. And I've been his biggest supporter until this came out, for being a good person and being honest, but that's out the window now. But it's hard. Like, you hear some of the guys, you hear about the hazing, and then you hear about Sopel and all these guys saying they all knew about it. It's a tough situation, I guess, until you know the real 100% you knew about it. Like, I'm okay to point blame on management and everything. They were in meetings.
Yeah.
They obviously tried their best to hide it from the players, but if there was hazing, there was talking, like, to some degree that you must have knew about it, and then there was no real apology to be like, okay, I knew a little bit about it, I could have done more. I mean, they kind of said that, but it was, like you said, there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. There's a lot that need to be answered, and I'm not hoping that you hear answers, but you hope, for me, a guy like Toews that I know personally, I would hope that those get cleared up, so you don't look at him, like a lot of people are looking at him saying, strip to see he knew about it. So I'm hoping maybe some clarity on
a little,
for him. I would at least hope that.
And if you're taking a look as well as what's trending, is a lot of players are starting to step up, and owners as well are saying that they're losing trust in the NHLPA and management. So what can the players do regarding that situation? Is there a specific method where guys can stand up and ban the NHLPA? Like, on that end, what's a change that could be done on the players' side?
Yeah, the players, they have these, I don't know, like the head of the PA and their assistants, they come around and meet with the team probably once or twice a year. And, they have it where it's normally on the road. They have a dinner, and, Don comes in and talks about everything under the sun. He talks for 2 hours straight. Everybody just sits there and eat. Half the guys don't really pay attention. Probably 3/4 don't. He just talks and talks and talks for 3 hours and talks about all these stuff, and you're up to date. And then on the summers, they have one or two a summer where it's like in person, kind of the same thing, where they update everybody. So everybody's kind of updated throughout the year on all aspects of what's going on in hockey. Then there's like the competition committee. There's like 8 or 9 guys that kind of, they get in the summers and they make, do we need new rules? Is everybody happy with our player representation? So at that point, I think your leaders of the PA and every rep from each team would have to come together and be like, look, we need a new leader. And I don't know if they've had that discussion, but I heard the rumors, and obviously the TSN insiders talking about how, as soon as this came out and Don put his apology, they had a group call and everything. So I'm sure Don Fehr got on there, talked for 3 hours about how he's innocent, and he's the best talker. He's the greatest talker I've ever seen in my life, where this guy can just talk and talk and talk and talk for hours straight, where nobody else get a word. He can just talk. So I don't know if he was fighting for his innocence or what he was doing. So I'm interested to see what goes forward. But the players at any point can band together and say, look, we need to change the leaders. You're finished. And I personally think that's coming.
You would hope so.
I don't know who. After this, I personally think there's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. You knew about it. You didn't protect the players. See you later.
You're screwed.
We need somebody else. And to that effect, if there's anybody else in the NHLPA office that knew about it, you got to go too. You're not stepping into his position. You got to go, because that's just completely unacceptable. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. This is kind of crazy right now. The NHLPA, has a big decision here that they're not officially going to the Olympics. So there's a lot of that to figure out in the next couple months. There's this going on. There's a lot of interesting times ahead for the PA. I don't think, honestly, don't see him lasting. So we'll see what happens.
Let's hope not. And let's take a moment to just thank Rick Westhead for all the amazing work that he's been doing. This guy is just trying to blow everything out of the water, getting a clearer vision on what's going on, and he still cannot get a 2-second question in with Gary Bettman. Blows my mind, but I mean, it kind of proves that it's insane. But this guy has been releasing everything he can and trying to clarify what's going on. So I think Rick Westhead, great job on his behalf. He's doing the work right now, and if we're going to incite change, he's on the right path of doing it. So hats off to him for sure.
Absolutely. I reached out to him on Twitter a couple of days ago, and I said, just thank you from a former player for actually, finding the answers and wanting to do right by people. Yeah. There's so very few, journalists or media people that actually want to do right by the players.
Yeah.
And when you think about what Rick's done, he was the guy hounding the concussion lawsuits, and he's always, you watch TSN and he's got these great pieces on, former players that are struggling. He always has the players back. So I think it's incredible. And I'm glad that TSN gives them that platform and allows them to do that. I feel like there's a lot of, I don't want to say other I don't see any other networks really bringing this kind of material. I don't know if they want to be that controversial, but Rick's there, TSN backs him, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him.
Well said. On another note, Montreal Canadiens.
Yes. Habs tonight here. Let's get into the Montreal Canadiens. Let's go back to
Habs tonight for a little bit and talk about, I know you haven't watched a lot of hockey with all that's been going on, the traveling and stuff, but from what you've seen, social media is a roller coaster. The team's a roller coaster. The fan base is a roller coaster. So let's dive right into it.
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting. And I honestly think the last couple playoffs, I guess, have kind of misjudged what this team really is and where they are. Just simple facts. Last year we're in a Canadian division that wasn't very good. Those teams, Vancouver was not very good. Ottawa was not very good. Calgary was not very good. Just not a good division. So in a regular year, they probably don't make playoffs last year. Year before that, we were 24th and we got in the bubble last. Shouldn't have been the playoffs. Year before that, missed the playoffs by 1 point. Okay, it was a good push at the end of the year. Max Domi was absolutely on fire.
Yeah,
and you missed the playoffs still. So if it wasn't for COVID, this team hasn't made the playoffs in 3 years. So the expectations are kind of they made a crazy run last year, and a lot of good things happened for them, and a lot of things had to go right, and it did at the right time. But I also think when you look at that team, and we preach it all the time, and we preach leadership here and how much these guys mean in the room, and I'm the biggest supporter in that. Not unbiased because I was one of those room guys, but Shea Weber, Carey Price, Eric Stahl, Corey Perry,
Paul Byron.
People don't understand, a guy like Paul Byron too. Jeff Petry, like these older guys. I know Petry's there right now, but like those older guys, I don't think people understand. I don't know. It's just it's hard to explain when you have a good leadership core like that in a dressing room with you. They just certain guys know what to say at the right time to just kind of take the edge off or change your mindset or just shift your mindset. Or I know I was listening to you guys last night talk about the players meeting and stuff, and I know you guys were both looking for like who would step up and talk right now, and
Yeah.
I don't know everybody on the team, but I know a lot of them. And outside of Galley, and PD steps up and talks in team meetings when he needs to. He's a more quiet guy, but when he talks, people listen. But outside of Galley, like I'm looking at the guys there, and when you guys were looking around, and I'm as I'm watching, I'm doing the same thing, thinking, man, I don't know who's going to say anything in this dressing room. Obviously I'm a year removed from the room, but
Yeah.
I don't know, like Galley for sure. And, I heard you guys mention Paulie, like Paulie speaks up, from my experience, but it's tough when you're not playing and
Yeah. I can just
you're not
imagine.
really around the team. So it's like, I don't know, you almost feel a little like weird to say stuff when you're not really there in the day-to-day battles. You're like, you come in as an injured guy, you're there before everybody, you do your rehab, you work out, maybe you skate before everybody. When you're injured, you're not really part of the team. You're kind of like on the outside. So you probably sit in on meetings when Burge comes in and he's screaming and slamming the door and saying, I believe in the team, but there's not a lot of voices there right now. I think Carey coming back would be huge, just to have him come back in the room and see everybody for morale and just really be like, look at guys, like, let's relax and let's play here. He has that,
Calmness.
yeah. And I think, again, like you said yesterday, we can't expect him to come in and be a savior.
No.
But
No.
he's a huge voice in that room. People want to talk about Weber and everything. Like, that's a big loss. Like, just having that presence, when a guy like that speaks and says, okay, I think our team can do this, or in order for us to be successful, we need to do this. Like, that's a guy that's been around forever. You listen and everybody believes it. When someone else says it, that's like, doesn't have the kind of bearing that a guy like Shea Weber does, it doesn't really go as far. I think they're severely missing Edmondson too. I think he's a big voice in that locker room. Again, I've never played with him. I know from other guys the type of person he is, and you just see the way he plays. He's one of those guys that brings people in the fight with you. So I think he's a guy that they probably miss big time, not only just playing, but in the room, but they definitely miss him playing
On the ice for sure.
And then, yeah. And when you look at, I watched highlights the other day and I watched a period of the Vegas game. Like, how do you really leave that game upset? Like they should have, that's a game you should have won. Like
100%.
You should have won that game. Like, Leonard played unbelievable. When people will be like, well, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it's like, you got to draw on something. That's, you hear Galley talk the other day and he's like, it's still early in the season, and it is still early. It's really early.
It's 13 games in. Oh, I lost you.
It's not time for, everybody on social media says tank and let's get the first overall pick. We're not there yet. nor would no player is going to tank. I've seen
that was my question. I had a few questions here that I wanted to get through, and that was one of them. Is you're seeing social media, obviously every fan is tank for Shane Wright. Like, yes, no questions asked. Shane Wright is a caliber player. Obviously any team would be lucky to have him, but have you ever been in a room where guys agreed with let's tank for a pick or get on board with tanking? I've honestly never seen a player go like, hey, you know what? Let's tank. No, guys want to win, right?
Yeah, it's so funny as a fan.
Yeah, I can confirm that's never happened, and it'll never happen. As a professional athlete, you just have a level of pride. You wouldn't be where you are if you could ever just flip off a switch and not try. As a fan, it's fine. You can think that and be like, yeah, we want to get a first overall pick for sure. Why wouldn't you? Why not? But as a player, guys are going out every day. They're doing everything they can to win because they have something on the line too. Your contract's up at the end of the year. There's, how many teams in the league now? 31 other teams watching you. There's you always have something to play for as a player, and that's always reiterated every time I've been out of the playoffs on a bad team. Like when you have the player only meetings, the older guys are like, look, as a young guy, you might think, okay, I'm coasting through. They're like, look at like these games matter. There's teams around the league watching you, like your next contract, like this goes a long way. So there's just too much pride as an athlete to tank. It'll just never happen. Your team might continue to lose. You might continue to go to the basement, but it's never going to be a decided effort like, hey, let's just not try, because half you won't be here if that's the case. So it's an absolute crazy idea that just never happens.
Perfect. Thank you for confirming that, because right now it's like, I get it, but even if we take a look as, let's say the Montreal Canadiens are tanking not on purpose here.
Yeah.
You've got a guy like Shane Wright coming in. You're not even guaranteed that you're going to get the first round pick. It's a lottery. With our luck, we'd probably lose it. 1. And 2, if you take a look at the track record of the past 15 years, just developing players and first rounders, our track record is absolutely awful. So do you see it as Trevor Timmins being an issue there? Should we clear slate on that and bring in someone fresh and try to actually develop our players? Is development an issue with the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, I think when you look at the results, as you just said, that it's an absolute problem. Is Trevor Timmins the answer? I don't know. I'm not like in the war room, so I don't know how much leverage he really has. He's the head guy. Yeah. So if you want to look at results, he's the first guy that what you would say, okay, he's got to go. You continue to not draft players that pan out. Okay. But you can also go on the other side and say, yeah, he's drafting great players and good players are coming here and we're not developing them. So I think there's two sides there. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're drafting enough quality players. Just plain and simple. Like, I've been following the draft very closely since 2003. I don't think Montreal has drafted very well. And let's talk about development. I mean, you just look at the first overall picks. Like, who's signing off on these picks? Like Timmins is saying, okay, I'm vouching for this guy. And then the GM's like, yeah, okay, I trust you. Or he's like, he comes and he's like, yeah, I love him too. Like, you're making a great pick here. I don't know the inner workings. We'll never know the inner workings. But, when you've gone this long, you continue to not even hit home runs. You're not even hitting doubles with your first round picks. That's, to me, you got to go. It needs to be, you need to have a new voice in there. Something's got to change. You got to, and I don't know, like the head guy, you're seeing your first round picks a ton. Like you're watching this guy at the beginning of the year, your area scouts are like, yeah, this is a guy that could be targeted in our area in the first round. You're there watching. You've seen him a ton of times. As the head guy, that's kind of on you. And if the other guys aren't bringing you good players to watch and they're not, maybe they're missing guys, and I don't know, but I think you got to clean a lot of that house out because that's a big issue. And, you look at the guys they've drafted, like you just look at the first round picks. I don't want to mention their names and no disrespect to them, but like these have not been, they haven't been doubles. They haven't been doubles.
No.
And you're in some areas where, it's tough when you go back to and you're like 5-6 years ago and, you're seeing the players around them. You're like, wow, he really didn't pan out. And then you look under him, it's like all-star. It's like,
but
wow,
like you said, tough. It could have been on the other side where he could have been an all-star too if he was properly developed. That's the thing right now, right?
Yeah, you just frozen me there, Nick. You want to fire that again?
Yeah, I was saying you can look at the other side of things too, where he could have been an all-star if maybe he wasn't properly developed. So it's like it's like a catch-22 type of thing where it's, to me right now, it's like a both side issues. Like, yeah, okay, maybe Timmins isn't drafting the right guys, but who's taking care of that development and who's not doing their jobs? Does it have to do with the coach as well? Let's take KK for an example here. I don't want to bring back the KK drama, but you've seen a guy that was put on the fourth line, the wing, the fourth line, the third line. He played with 58 different line combos last year. Yeah. Don't tell me that's good for his development.
No. And I agree. And that to me is on the GM and the way you handle it, where okay, and you sent, and this is a comparison I want to make, and I'm sure you want to talk about Cole, and we can get into him.
Yes.
But like KK, okay, he should have never been there, and I've said it from day one. Like, it's kind of like, when you talk about Gooley, like, he had a great training camp this year. Boom, he's back, and he's going to play World Junior. He's going to have a great year. He's going to be even better next year. Great decision.
Yep.
KK should, like, he had a great training camp. He should have never been on the team, but he had a great year his first year. So I say what you want. Like, maybe I'm an idiot, and they made the right decision keeping him, because he had a great rookie year for an 18-year-old, a true 18-year-old in the NHL, which is crazy. But then the way they handled it after that, I think waited too long to send him to the American League, and then you got some COVID craziness. He comes in, he plays great in the playoffs, comes back, doesn't play as well, and it ends the way it ends. But to me, the development there doesn't seem to be, and I've talked about Paling 100 times, where the expectation was obviously high. He comes in, scores a hat trick, kid looks amazing. And then, I've said it a million times that he's not playing well in the American League. You call him up, doesn't play 20 games, sits in the stands, boom, down to the American League, not playing well, up again. And that was handled really poorly. And that, to me, just needs to get better, which leads me into Cole, where, again, they're like, okay, maybe they look at it as, and this is their development. Like, is there a plan? Do they handle this guy different from this guy? I think everybody's different. KK, they sent him down. He played the American League. He looked great. Comes in the summer, plays in the bubble, plays great. Like, okay, maybe that worked. Now they're like, okay, we're going to try that with Cole. But I think I think you're dealing with a different scenario here, where, like, Cole Caufield was having, like, his head blown up all summer and all playoffs about how incredible he was. Regardless if the kid is the most humble kid alive, that gets to you. There's some expectation. Look at who's the guy in Anaheim that said he was going to score 40 goals this year on Instagram?
Trevor Zegras.
Yeah. What a player that guy is. Oh my God. He's like 10-game point streak or something crazy. But, like, there's so much pressure on that kid.
Like,
he was supposed to be the rookie of the year. He's supposed to come in and score like 30 goals was expected to be a bad year for him. Like, if he had 30, you're like, yeah, he should have done that. Like, that was the expectation on this poor kid. Then he comes in and doesn't, and again, I'm not speaking from, I haven't watched a game. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I know how he was playing, but he's a scorer and he didn't score. So to me, like, I don't think he got scratched before he got sent down. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? They never scratched him?
Nope.
So to me, like, as a young guy who's expected to be a Calder Trophy winner, he has this probably big expectations for himself. Does he not deserve to maybe stay on the team and just take a step back first before you send him down? Like, how does the scratch not even become an option? Like, I don't know. To me, it's an absolute slap in the face to a guy that played so well for you in the playoffs. You had these huge expectations for, the whole world did. And you're just like, yeah, you're struggling 10 games when everybody was struggling. Nobody had any points when he got sent down. And they're like, we'll just go to the minors. Like, to me, I don't think that was right. Like, at least start with a scratch, maybe 1-2 games in a row. Look how it worked in the playoffs.
That's
true. Scratched him. The kid was pissed off. You could see it. He's in the stands. They're filming him every day. He's got his mask on, so you can only see his eyes. But he's pissed off sitting up there. He wants to play in the playoffs. And he came back and responded. So that, to me, should have been the first option. Like, give him a scratch. Let him watch from up top. And it makes a difference. Sometimes it motivates you different. Sometimes, you see the game different. You step back and you're like, obviously it looks easy when you're sitting in the press box, but you're like, okay, as skilled as he is, as good as he is, you're like, okay, maybe I can try this next time. Or maybe, I'm a shooter. I got to get to the middle a little more. There's just like little things that should have been, to me, the first progress. And that leads back to our development conversation where, like, what's the plan there? You scratched them last year. Like, I don't know. I don't think they handled that one very well.
It's scary when you look at it, because the track record's not good with developing players, and then you see how Cole Caufield's being handled, and you just got that itch in the back of your neck saying, like, are we messing it up? So I agree with exactly what you just said. If we're touching back on what James and I said yesterday, is my point of view is, okay, let's say he does go down just to gain back confidence, because I feel like since the team's not doing well, morale is probably not super in the room right now.
I loved when you said that. 100%. I love the way you said that, because it's toxic. When the team is losing like that, it's a really
it
toxic
gets to
environment.
you. It's extra pressure too, right? So
Yes.
my point of view on it was maybe he just needs to go back to a winning mentality, play top line minutes. He's playing with Paling right now. He got his first point yesterday
Perfect.
on a power play pass. And I don't know. For me, I kind of saw it as bring him back, let him go back to basics, and then come back with confidence. But then hearing you say he should have been scratched first, I fully agree with that too, because it could have been another point of view, a first step to try. If that didn't
Right.
work out, then you go to plan B. So yeah, now that you say it, I do feel like we missed a step.
Right.
So fully agree with that too.
Yeah, like I like what you say, because when a team is losing like that, and everything's like you're under the microscope in Montreal,
It's bad.
I don't know. Like I played in Philly when we were bad. Vancouver, we were never that bad. We were bad a little bit, but Montreal's just different. Like when it's going bad, like it's bad
It's
everywhere. You
bad.
can't turn on your TV. Everyone at the grocery store wants to tell you how bad your team is. Like it's just different. You just can't get away from it. So it's a really toxic environment, especially when you go to the rink. Everyone's grumpy too, and pissed off. Like it's not fun as a young guy to be around that. It's not a good environment. But I just think you could have took that step. And if he comes back, then hey, it didn't work, send him back. But at least you bought yourself some time. And to me, you just gave the kid a little more respect, because he's earned that after what he did last year, I think, personally.
100%.
Going down and playing a ton and scoring, he's a scorer. And in order to feel confident as a scorer, you got to score. You're not going to gain your confidence by scoring in practice, or, sitting in the stands, or continuing to play and not score. It just it continues to get worse. So you got to score to get confidence. You can't just flip the switch in your mind and be like, oh, I'm now mentally strong and I got confidence. You can't. No. Like it's the hardest thing to learn as a player, and you get better as you get older.
He's still young too. He's got so much time to build that.
He's never been anywhere where he hasn't had success. So he's struggling with that right now. I can tell you 100%. So go down, score, play a ton. I'm really anxious to see how long they leave him down there, and when he comes up, what happens.
And again, depending on how the team's doing too, like there's so many question marks on that end as well that it's confusing.
Is there anything wrong if you leave him down there? If Montreal continues to struggle, they're in the basement. Is there anything wrong with leaving him down to score 40 down there?
In my personal opinion, no. Why bring him up? And like we said, if it's absolute shit, if the mentality and the morale is just so bad, I don't see the point of bringing him back up to down his mood, down his confidence, leave him where he is, and it might just motivate him even more for next season, right? Because he's going to make the team next season. So
yeah, I think like that's a situation where you're in now. If he continues, obviously, to rip it up down there, which he will, and Montreal continues to be a bottom feeder, like, do you really want to? Like, I don't know if they got the balls up top to leave him down there that long.
Yeah,
but that's to me a development plan. Like, don't bring. He's still so young, as you said. Don't bring a kid into this when it's like, I said it's very toxic when it's like that. Like, it's not fun to be around. And
you take a look. He left college, played 2 AHL games, and then went straight to the NHL. So it was so fast for him too. He never got that full experience of just playing for the American League, and it was such a huge step forward. He just went straight to the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It feels like it needs a little bit of stability.
You haven't had any adversity, so that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, very true. Very true. He's not going to be as happy when he sees that American League paycheck, though. That might motivate him a little more. It's a big difference, but
yeah, that's the only downside of it.
He's still so young, and yeah. But you're so young. It doesn't. Any kind of money is good. College, you're making nothing. So American League seems
a step
like
up.
You're living pretty good. You're living pretty good for sure.
Another question I had was, obviously you're talking about everything being toxic right now. I want to talk about the Western road trip that we have. So first of all, Montreal wins their first game in San Jose since November 23rd, 1999. So I want to get your player's perspective on, you've played for Montreal. So you're heading to a Western road trip where it's known that the team doesn't always play well in California.
Mm-hmm.
You're heading to San Jose. How is the team mentality heading to an arena where you haven't won in at least 20 years? What's going through a player's mindset when that's happening? Or a team?
Yeah, it was always a bad feeling going there. I remember the first time I went there with Montreal, it was literally 2 weeks after I got traded there, and my face was all ripped up. So it was a terrible flight for me anyways. But I heard a lot of the guys talking about it. Obviously I didn't know at the time, but everybody's talking about, oh, we haven't won here. So you have that, like, there's certain buildings, teams I find, and certain guys just love playing in, and that was obviously one that was not a good one for us. You just knew it was going to be a grind no matter what happened. Like, you almost tried to prepare like it was a playoff game, and it just never turned out. Like, you did everything you could to make sure you could prepare yourself, and it just never happened. It was so frustrating. For that, I was watching the highlights on that one too. I didn't see the actual game, but it was awesome. I just felt like it was eventually like, you got to win one eventually.
Just one.
And when everybody was really talking about it so much, I had a real good feeling that this was going to happen. So I was pretty happy to see the boys one night. Just that whole trip's tough. You just, I don't know. It's always been tough even when their teams aren't good. It just feels like it's tough, and it feels like the ice is slower, and their teams are so big and strong. It's just, I know it's changed a little bit in the last couple of years, but it's always felt that way.
Western teams are always bigger too, so you kind of see the difference between the East and the West as soon as you go, obviously, on a Western road trip. But brings me to my next question of, you go on a 4-game, 5-game road trip in the West, and you get 2 points. Coming back from that on the plane, you saw the guys after the Anaheim game and everything just being completely distraught. You're looking at Gally talking, and you can see that it's pissing him off. He takes it so personally. I've seen it personally. I've talked to him after that 8-game against Philly losing streak in 2019, where I took a picture with him, and he's destroyed, and you can just feel it. You feel the energy being so negative. So how's the plane ride coming back to Montreal, knowing that you just got 2 points out of 5 or 6? How are the boys taking it? Is it silent? Is somebody stepping up to motivate the guys? How is that?
Yeah, on those ones, you normally stay over like that night because the time difference and the travel is so far.
Okay.
So you normally stay over there. So most of the time if it's a bad last one on that road trip, and I've been on a couple bad ones, it's a lot of beers at the hotel with some of the guys, just like, you're just completely pissed off and exhausted, and, trying to break it down, and everybody's got their coaching hat on, and every player's got their idea of what it's going to take to change after a couple beers. But it's just a bad feeling. Like, it's miserable. It's toxic. And then, you barely get any sleep that night, and then you have an early flight the next day at 9, and you travel all day, and everyone's tired and pissed off. It's just a bad feeling. And then I always find the game home, the first game after a long road trip, is tough too. That's always one of the hardest to win. I don't have the answer for why that one is, but
we came back and we won against Detroit.
Yeah, the Detroit thing is crazy. Like, for as long as I can remember,
we hadn't won a game against Detroit in 985 days or something. It was a crazy stat like that until this season.
Really?
Yeah, it was insane.
Wow.
So coming back from a road trip and we won, that was my biggest surprise, is, maybe the guys were actually so pissed off that they just left it all on the ice coming back. But then it went to shit right after. So
I know Detroit's always been a
wild card.
Yeah, they're always the team to beat up at home in Montreal, though. I don't remember ever losing at home to Detroit as a Montreal Canadian. Like, they were always came in at the perfect time when we were playing terrible, and we always beat them, and it was always point night for everybody. It was, I don't know why it was like that. They were always seemed to be the I don't know, the slump buster for so many guys. And it's crazy because I know, like, Gally scores did he score last time we played him?
That's a good question.
He scores every game against Detroit, that guy. Like, behind the net.
Sure he did. I think he batted it in front of the net.
I wouldn't doubt it. He scores every game against Detroit. So it's, we got to start playing this way against other teams. That's going to be
we need to play Detroit 82 games a year at this
rate. Is that possible? And then
it's absolutely insane.
I know.
Did you happen to hear Michael McNiven's recent interview and comments? I know you played with him when you were in Laval.
I didn't. What did he say?
So McNiven had basically did an interview where he was injured in a game. And after the first period where they're down 3-0, goes up to the coaching staff and says, please pull me. I'm injured. Like, I can't play. I'm having trouble going post to post, making my strides. I'm injured.
Yeah.
Training staff goes, you're fine. Stay in. Team goes down 4-0. Requests again to be pulled and did not get pulled even though he was injured. Afterwards, he makes some comments of he's just pissed off. He's tired of being basically a backup. So he's saying, I'm being given different types of opportunities and I'm blowing past those opportunities every single time and I'm still at the same goddamn spot. So the way he played in the preseason, McNiven was my backup for starting the season. Obviously, we had Jake Allen, but then we went and got Samuel Montembeault. So for me, it was Jake Allen, Michael McNiven. We obviously agreed that Caden Primo should have done another season in Laval. But do you see Michael McNiven being on the chopping block where it's basically a cry for bring me up or trade me at this point? Because he's been there for what, like 8 years right now, and he's still a damn backup, but he's so talented.
Wow. I'm just really confused about him staying in the net. This is crazy because Montreal's training staff is outstanding. They have the best. I mean, every NHL training staff is incredible, but I feel like Montreal, of all people,
would have pulled him.
Graham does an incredible job. Like, he goes above and beyond for the players. He's an incredible person. So I'm actually really surprised there. I'd love to know the backstory.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, maybe that's, you know, there's no way he comes to Graham. I played there, 3.5 years, if not longer, with that guy. So there's just no way. I feel like he would go to the coach. So maybe the coach is trying to send a message to him, like, you keep wanting an opportunity, here's your opportunity, kind of thing. I don't know if Dom's like that, but that's just really strange to me. And I don't know if I've seen him enough. Like, I went down when I first got traded back in 2018, I played 2 games with Laval, and he played one of them, and I thought he played great. I said, wow, this guy's pretty good. And then Charlie Lindgren played the other one again. You know, he was great, but Nivs has kind of got caught in there. When I was in 2019, there's Primo and there's Lindgren. Lindgren's on a one-way contract, and he's been their starter there for 2 years. So you're not taking his spot. I'm sorry. And Montreal continued to call him up that year too. So obviously Montreal loved him. And then Primo was lights out the first 4 or 5 games that he played. So Nivs just wasn't going to get a chance. That's a difficult situation. But when he comes in and plays and plays as well as he did, that to me has got to open eyes of everyone around the league. Everybody's always looking for goaltending depth. You can't have enough goaltending depth with the amount of injuries goalies get now, and a couple of guys getting run. I saw the other night. It's crazy, but there's more hits on goalies this year than I've ever seen. But
it's insane.
Good for him for coming out and calling guys out. Because if you just stay silent and you continue to get buried, I mean, you don't even bring attention to yourself. So I good for him. Like, if he played as well, as you say, and I trust your opinion. So I think it's great. Call people out, get yourself out there, and then teams start looking. Okay, hey, our goalie got hurt. Let's look at McNiven, watch his tape. Man, he was great in exhibition. Let's try to get this guy. So good for him. I love that. A lot of balls.
It would be awful just to lose him, though, because the quality goaltender that he is. So for me, it's like, shit. Like, I hope we don't lose him, but at some point, like you said,
really quality person too.
Yeah,
really.
Well, he follows us on Instagram too, so it'd be great to Michael, come on the show if you want here, but it'd be great to have him. And he just seems like such a genuine human being as well. Like, such a great.
He's good. So that's the thing. Like, he was like the third goaltender a couple of times when I was in Laval, and I never heard him complain once. He would, the top 2 goalies are taking shots. He just stands on the wall all practice. He has to take extra shots with the extra guys. So, and I never saw him complain once. So
it's 8 years. It's a long time coming for him of, I've been given opportunities and I'm still at the same spot. So I'm happy, like you said, that he called it out, but like, I hope for him that it gets better and he gets a spot somewhere because he deserves it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that
one. Speaking of getting spots and stuff, so trending subject is Jeff Petry right now. I know you haven't seen a lot of the games, but could Jeff Petry be trying to take but model Weber's game a little bit too much. He said that he was overthinking and needed to simplify his game, but I don't know if you saw the replay, but he's getting off the ice, screaming, slamming the door. He looks like he's looking at the coach, screaming at the coach. He is not himself right now. He's at the point, constantly shooting on on another player, not making the key passes. Players are just wide open, and he's not passing. He's not making plays. What could be going on with Jeff Petry right now?
Yeah, this is interesting. And again, I haven't watched it, so I don't want to like critique individual plays, but I think, if I'm going to dive into it, I think it could be along the lines of why David Savard is supposedly struggling. I think a lot of people are giving it to him right now.
He really is.
Poor guy who honestly took less to come to Montreal. He could have got more money somewhere else. There's no doubt in my mind after 2 Stanley Cups. I just think the last couple of seasons have been hard on guys' bodies.
For sure.
Like really hard. And Petey's 34, which is getting older in hockey terms. I know he skates so fluid and he makes things look easy. That I'm sure that's why people are like, what's going on? He's been Mr. Consistent on Montreal's blue line. He's just always there. He's durable. He plays so well. So I'm sure that's why people are worried, because we're used to seeing, this elite standard of a defender, which he is, and I'm sure he'll get back to. But I just think, he's going through this hand injury. They play in the playoffs. They finish in July. You go home for 1 month. You're back at it. I just think it's been an absolute grind on some guys' bodies. And it takes I don't want to say a couple months, but for some guys, it takes longer to kind of get in that hockey shape and get back to where you need to be and where you're playing. And again, I'm not speaking from watching him play, but not having his D partner that he's used to playing with. I know him and Edmondson were incredible together. He's playing with different guys. That plays into it too. No disrespect to the guys that he's playing with, but Joel Edmondson is a top 4 defender.
Yeah.
Again, another consistent guy, and you know what you get from him. So I think it's just and Savard's gone to the Stanley Cup final twice the last 2 years, COVID year in the bubble and last year. And you have no time to train and recover your body. We talked to Gally there maybe 4 or 5 weeks before the camp is open, and he was like, man, I got home like 2 weeks ago and I'm back training already, and it's training camp in a month. So the season is just an absolute grind on a normal year, but the last 2 years is just killing guys physically. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would give it another 5-7 games, and I bet you see Petry start rounding the corner, getting to where he wants to be, and I wouldn't be concerned about him. I honestly think I don't want to say that's what it is, but I'm assuming, Jeff takes care of himself so well. He's a guy that can easily play another 4 or 5 years, the way he skates, the way he plays the game. I just think he's rounding into mid-season form here in the next 5-7 games, and I think that's all it is with him.
Let's hope so, because like you said, he's a guy that we've depended on so much when Weber wasn't around. We know what he's capable of, and seeing him play the way he's playing is what's frustrating as fans, because you're like, I know you're better than this. I know you're able to make those key plays. He's just not making them, and you can see the frustration. I have a photographer friend who's taking photos at ice level, and he told me, he's like, Jeff Petry is constantly screaming at everybody. He's yelling at everything. He just looks distraught, not himself. He's pissed off. Obviously, the way the team is going, like, it's not helping there. But
he's a fiery competitor. Like, he's very fiery. So he's a guy. He may not show it a lot, and obviously he's showing it now. But he's a guy that's so fiery. He hates to lose. He loves to compete. So that doesn't surprise me to hear that. He's showing it a little more, I think, now, but I think he's frustrated. I think when you're a guy like him, for good reason, that's the team has been good the last couple of years. You've been in some good playoff runs. Again, last year you go to the Stanley Cup final. Your expectation is to continue to stay at that level. He wants to win. He re-signed here. That guy could have went to any team he wanted to go to. He decided to stay in Montreal, and now your team's doing this. You're getting older. That's frustrating, because he wants to win so bad. And you took this leap of faith. Sorry. Crazy. Leap of faith to sign on this team and expect good things. And I think that's what he was hoping for. So, and to touch on your point, is he trying to fill the shoes of Shea Weber? Maybe he's being more vocal now than I've seen him, obviously, by what you're saying. Yeah. So maybe he's trying to be that guy that holds guys accountable. I wouldn't say that Webbs would yell at guys, but he could give you a look and be like, "Hey, pick it up."
Oh, that look.
he held guys accountable, and without him, and I don't know a lot of the guys in the dressing room. I think, maybe Jeff's having to take that role on himself, to call guys out, to keep guys honest. That's how you have good teams. You got to hold people accountable. So, yelling at the coach, I haven't seen him yell at the coach very often, but I seen him. I seen him battle Claude Julien one time in practice.
Before we touch back on that, you can kind of see like the camera's on him and he's just looking back screaming, but you can't see who he's screaming at. So is he screaming at the team? Is he screaming at the coach? I'm not here to speculate on that, but he
probably
was screaming
forward.
At somebody,
probably a forward, I think. Probably a forward didn't come back or turn the puck over, didn't get in deep.
Yeah.
If the D get caught on a shift, and that's what, like, mostly the only time I seen him yell at guys is when, the D are stuck on a long shift and forwards don't get the puck in deep so they can change. He's not afraid to give it to guys, which I love.
Perfect.
So maybe it's something to that aspect, and maybe they need a little more of that. So
just to touch back, that story on Claude Julien, I want to hear it.
Yeah. So I don't know what was happening. I think it was like 3-on-3 down low or something, and Claude made the D a lot of times turn their stick over, so they just had the butt end of the stick on the ice. Okay. We did that a lot in practice. I mean, Claude was the only guy I've ever seen do that in the NHL, unless it was like penalty killers. Sometimes you flip your stick over to give the power play a little confidence so they can zing it around. But he made the D flip the stick over, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, it was Army. I scored like 3 or 4 goals within like 20 seconds. Like the forward line was just abusing the D, and Petey's just steaming, and I could see him losing. I'm just sitting there taking this, and I said, he's going to break state. He's going to lose it. Like I said, he's a fiery competitor. He hates to lose. I love that about Petey. Yeah, so, sure. He's skating out, and I don't know what he said to Claude, but he screamed something at Claude, and then Claude yelled, like, screamed back at him, and then skated up to him. But then as soon as Claude got in his face, he kind of like cowered down and was like, "Jeff, I'm just trying to make you better." And he got so scared when he got in Jeff's face. It was so funny because he was like screaming at him from really far away, but then when he got up close to him, it was like, "Oh shit, I'm just trying to make the D better." And he got so scared. That was really hilarious. That was really funny. So that's a testament to how fiery Jeff Petry is.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. To touch back on a little bit more Habsitivity here, you've got a guy like Nick Suzuki who just signs a huge, well-deserved contract, in my opinion. Not overpaid, not too much. Like, it was the perfect contract. He starts off a little bit slower than what some might have anticipated. Then again, the whole team is starting a bit of a slump. So he now has 12 points in 13 games. He calls himself out after the Anaheim game saying, "This is one of my worst games. I need to be better. I'm going to play better." And he just shoots down his own game. So how do you feel about players calling themselves out? Is this something that more guys need to do and actually act up on it? Because he turns around next game and he scores.
That's, to me, the number one sign of leadership is when you call yourself out. There's very few guys that do it. I don't know if guys have to do it more, but that's, to me, a guy developing into one of the big leaders on that team when he comes out and says that. And then he answers the bell after, which I'm not surprised. Yeah. He is a guy that just raises his game in the biggest moments, and we've seen that at such a young age.
Gally
it's so incredible. It's so incredible. And for him to call himself out and then go on a run like that, it's outstanding. Perfect. I think that the sky is the limit for him. That's just so good. That's so good. It takes so much to call yourself out, and oh man, that's just so good. I love hearing that. And maybe Nick is one of those guys that is transitioning into one of those vocal guys in the locker room. He's not the most vocal guy in the world, but maybe he's seeing himself now that he needs to step into that role and be a little more vocal and be the guy. You are the guy now. You're paid like the guy. You're the number one center. Like, you're the guy. You got to be that. And, doing doing it, you jump into it and you call yourself out and respond like that. That to me is that's the guy.
Gally said it a few times during this pressers too, like when we are in a slump or some guy needs to stand up, he's the guy that stands up on the ice and leads by example. So he's the type of guy where you kind of have to think at the back of your head, is he captain material one day? Like, no disrespect to Shea Weber here, because we've said it countless times on the show. You do not put a C on somebody else until Shea Weber 100% calls it a career. No, like,
Yeah.
respect to Shea Weber for keeping the C. He came down to Seattle, talked to the boys, still part of this team, even though Jonathan Drouin flat out comes out and says, you know, his career's over. He's basically in retirement, and everybody freaks the hell out after. But he's the type of guy that I do see along with Gallagher, because Gallagher obviously has been known to, you're the next C. But I don't know Gallagher personally, but he kind of feels like the guy who would say, no, leave the A on me, give the C to Zooks. He's the up and coming guy. He's your number one center. Like, he just seems like that type of guy.
Yeah, I think Gally for sure is that type of guy. He for sure. I don't know. Gally has no problem dealing with pressure. He's dealt with it his whole life, his whole career, and he thrives in it. But I think he would be the type of guy too that would be like, look at, you know, we don't need to have me take it for a couple of years and then we're switching or whatever it is. You know, to me, like when a guy comes out and says that's the leader of the team, and then, you know, puts the team on his back, which he has the last couple of playoff runs, and goes for it. The way you paid him, I think I mean, again, I don't know everybody in the dressing room. I don't know the locker room dynamics right now, but I think that's your future captain. I think as soon as probably next year. And again, like you said, you don't take it away from Webbs until he comes out and says, which I would assume he would address, you know, following this season, but we'll see what happens with that. And I think Nick is your guy.
Oh, 100%. Before we wrap up here, because I've kept you long enough, want to touch on two more subjects. It's going to be Jonathan Drouin, the amazing season that he's been having coming back from taking a personal leave for mental health reasons. We said, let this kid come back. He's going to tear it up on the ice. And he's been Mr. Consistency. Well, he's been out for the last 3 games, getting that shot to the head here, which we hope he's okay. No signs of concussions yet. It's just maybe a little bit of headaches and bruising. So let's hope it's nothing serious, but we're missing him in the lineup. He's been Mr. Consistency. How proud of you of Jonathan Drouin for coming back and proving so many people wrong and not being the whipping boy for once.
It makes me so happy. When I check the box score and I see him producing offensively, it makes me so happy.
Deserves it.
Like I said, I loved playing with Joe, and you could just see something was off with him when I was playing with him. And now to come back and be consistent, I think that's the one thing that you can say he hasn't been for the Montreal Canadiens is consistency. You see this guy and he's great couple games and down. And now to have some consistency is just, I'm so happy for him. It's exactly what Montreal needs.
Yeah.
And I think whatever he did to get at peace with himself, and it must be working, obviously, because, you know, when you get that consistency, it's not you're up and down. He's not sleeping. He's obviously sleeping better. He feels good about himself, and you come to the game, you know, every single game with the same mindset that you're just going to go out and do your best and be consistent. And I'm so happy that he's doing that.
It was incredible to watch. So as everybody knows, half of the team here went to the game opener in Montreal, and Jonathan Drouin goes and scores not only in his first game back, but scores at the Bell Center as well. Got one of the biggest ovations and name chants during the player intros. Just chills being there and hearing the full support for him. So I can't imagine for him how important it was to come back to the Bell Center, score a goal, and just prove, like, you know what, I'm back. He's got the tools to talk to himself, manage his anxiety, manage his sleeping disorder. So I can't imagine the weight lifted off his shoulders, just coming back and being able to be consistent again.
It must be great. I mean, it's got to be awesome for a guy that's that skilled, and to watch it the last couple of years, you're just like, what's happening? He's so good. Like, you have too much skill to not be this good every night. And obviously there was issues, and now to see him come and do that is just amazing. And I saw the highlights and the chant, and you know, I felt so good for him. He's such a good player. He's such an important part of Montreal, their hockey club. And I see no reason why he's not going to keep that going for the rest of the year and have a tremendous season.
100% agreed. And the last trending subject, our boy Carey Price, who has just finished his 30-day player assistance program on Saturday. He is back in Brassard today. There was an optional skate at 10:30, but not sure if he's back on the ice or not, but he's meeting with all the therapists today to establish a plan. Let's assume that he's going to be back on the ice maybe 3 weeks, a month, if everything goes well. Like, he hasn't played, skated, or done much since playoffs, getting surgery, all the Seattle drama. Like, this is a guy that still has a lot on his shoulders and probably got tips on how to manage everything that's going on. But what do you have in mind for Carey Price coming back now and how the whole situation is going to be handled?
Yeah, Carey's a very special hockey player. He's really unique, where he's one of those guys that he could hop right back in a game and be, the old Carey Price within a day. It was funny when we came to the bubble last summer and he's on the ice, and first day I thought he looks incredible, and I talking to him after, I was like, man, did you, not many guys had a chance to skate, more than 3-4 times the way it was last summer everywhere in Canada. And he's like, yeah, I skated twice. And I was like, what do you mean you skated twice? I was like, he's like, wow, we didn't have any ice, couldn't do this. And I was like, holy smokes, man. Like, you're so good. I was like, you're so good. And he's such a pro that I wouldn't be worried about his conditioning. I think for him more is can he come and play the load that they need him to play right now, which is a lot. And can he stay durable enough that he can play that load and continue to play for the rest of the season at that level? So I would have no concern with coming back and playing well. That's not an issue. Condition, when you haven't skated, those are just muscles you can't train. So even as a goalie, you or have any kind of knee issues or any lingering effects from what he's had in the last couple of years. So I think he's going to surprise some people and play quicker than people expect him to. I know Carey, and I don't know if the program has changed, maybe not changed, but gave him a guideline of how to handle that. But he's such a team first guy. I know he's dying to get in there and help the boys. Like, he would give anything to get in there and help the boys. So I just think he's going to be back quicker than most people expect because of that. But I don't know what the process is with his recovery and mentally, where's he at, or what he wants to do. I don't know, but I just know he's such a warrior, and he loves the boys and would do anything for the boys. So I expect to see him back quicker than sooner than later.
Obviously, as fans, we're all excited to have him back on the ice. My only concern is there's so much pressure and mentality from the fans that are saying, Carey's going to be back, we're going to start winning. It's just the added pressure on his shoulders that I know he shuts everything down, and he's so in a Carey bubble that it might not get to him. But in the back of my mind, it's like, like we said yesterday, he's not going to be a savior here. Maybe he will. You never know. But I just hope it's not added pressure that, he lets in 5 goals like Allen is doing right now. Allen is playing some great hockey, but the defense in front of him just isn't there. So it looks bad on a goalie. You lose 5-2 against Vegas, but you got 2 empty netters in there that people don't think about. So really it's 3 goals, and you've got some photos, like even a fan of the show, Chris Nyland here, who goes on Twitter, posts a photo of 3 defensemen together, and he goes, this isn't soccer, guys. Like,
I saw that.
It's a little bit pathetic to look at, but you're like, yeah, you know what? You're not wrong. But so I just hope for Carey Price that it's going to be just a long time coming back, being appreciated in Montreal, and being appreciated just for the fact of leaving and taking time for himself. This is what's important right now, is that it's Carey Price, the human, not Carey Price, the hockey player. And I hope this is what the fan and the hockey community realizes. It's the mental health aspect. He came out, did what he had to do, and let's hope many people follow in his footsteps from this point on.
Yeah, I agree. I hope he gets the support from the fan base that he deserves. He's been just incredible for years, and I could go on about Carey all day long as I have before. But if he comes back and the team sucks and they continue to lose, I just hope the fans support him and don't start turning on him and
Yep.
booing or anything like that. Like it's uncalled for. But again, we're talking about Carey Price, the guy that carried this team to the Stanley Cup Finals 5 months ago. So he's going to come in and play well, and expectations are always going to be there because he is Carey Price. So I think the team's going to get a boost. I think you get a boost just by him being around, by the type of guy he is. He just has that aura about him. I don't know. He's just, if you're in the dressing room, you just know it. And I think the boys will get a boost. And not that you feel like, okay, our savior's back now, we're going to start winning, but it gives you that that belief.
It's a leader.
He has that aura, and he's the most impactful guy on your team, and he has that aura about him that it gives you that feeling of belief. So it couldn't have come at a better time for the Montreal Canadiens, I think.
No, completely agree. Well, thank you so much for hopping on with me, for doing this. It's been a long time coming for the fans. Lots of different issues here that have been happening in the past few weeks. So we apologize for how long it's taken for us to do this, but it's finally done. We've got some great content coming for you guys in the next couple of weeks too. We're going to try to get you on, Dale, every Sunday to do a weekly roundtable. It's going to be easier for you not being on every night with hockey coming back. So fans are going to be able to still get in touch with you through social media, as I know you're active with them, and keep answering every single message, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that I got a chance to hop on back with you here. In case anyone was wondering too, also not on top of traveling, I've had some Wi-Fi issues. Wi-Fi didn't work for a couple of days, and then tried to get it fixed. And long story short, we're back in action now, and expect to see me a little more frequent here as always. Guys, be sure to subscribe, like, comment. I'm always jumping in the comments, seeing what you guys are saying. And if you got personal message or something you want to send to me, I'm wide open on Instagram, Twitter. Send it me. I get back to almost everybody. So again, thanks for all the fans that are hanging with us and all the Habs-itivity that's spread, because the year's
God
too
knows we need
early.
it.
Life is too good. Life is too good to be upset and letting the Montreal Canadiens determine the way you feel in life. So let's have some Habs-itivity, and we'll see you guys real soon.
Perfect. Thanks again, Dale, and have a good game. I think the game's tonight, not mistaken, but either way, enjoy the game tonight or tomorrow, whichever day it is. So thanks for hopping on, guys, and have a great week. Cheers.